Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
We have a great guest for you today. We've got Kaye-Cee Austin. She's originally from Leavenworth, Kansas, and Kaye-Cee Austin is a 14-year retired Army veteran, is a member of the Los Angeles Ventures Association, the Angel Capital Association, the Trade Association of Angel Investors, and the Rockies Venture Club in Denver, Colorado. She's one of the youngest and newest angel investor venture capitalists in the nation. Kaye-Cee is an Entre-Leadership catalyst whose raw passion and life's mission is to train and cultivate young innovators supported by their parents, guardians, to start and grow their own companies and brands, utilizing best business practices, a full arsenal of mentors, and an army of industry resources. Her passion for the empowerment and education of all young people, despite race, gender, religion, and personal identity, is clearly presented in her operations of TeenTrep Incubator and all its initiatives. Let's just get right into it, Kaye-Cee. What is it, or how is it that you're helping people in the community, and what is your business about?
Hi, Tracy. I founded a company called teentrepreneur.biz as well as teentrep.co, and we assist tweens and teens ages 7 to 17, supported by their parents, in starting their own businesses.
Between 7 and 17, that's incredible. How big of a marketplace is that? I mean, is there a lot of people that want to participate in something like that?
Believe it or not, yes, there is. One of the things I like to tell people is we're literally having people throw their kids at us because at the end of the day, everybody wants, honestly, we all want our children to succeed. Even if it's not our child, someone knows a child, constantly getting calls and emails saying, hey, we'd like to bring this child into the program, because we all want a child that we know to succeed. It's an amazing market.
So give me a little bit a breakdown on, are these kids these aren't troubled kids, are they? Could you go a little bit deeper in that?
It's funny that you asked. We actually get asked this a lot. I know I get asked this. We see we get members from all over different social economical circumstances. We have, to be honest, we actually probably have more middle class than we do, as you say, troubled kids. And we do have them as well, and they come by way of scholarships. A lot of times they come by way of scholarships and recommendations.
Now, you say scholarships. Do you have sponsors that back you up in scholarships?
Yes.
Or how do they do that?
Yes. On our website, we actually have the form, and it states you could pay this amount, to support one student, or you pay this amount to support two students, half their tuition, full tuition, a quarter of their tuition. It's broken down on the website. And companies can sponsor anyone that's put in a request for a scholarship to attend.
Interesting. What is generally the outcome when students come through your program?
We actually have a few programs. Our initial program is it's the TeenTrep Business Academy. And the Business Academy, that one is actually an online academy as well, simultaneous online learning. And that one is set up to be 2 weeks. And what they do is, for the first 2 weeks, it's a hands-on course, like I said, as well as online. And for the first 2 weeks, all they're doing is actually building their companies, from getting their EIN on orientation day all the way to the very end of ensuring that all their documents are in a row and actually doing their investor pitches. By the end of the 2 weeks, their company is actually formed. And once they graduate, we have an actual commencement ceremony. And once they graduate, from then on, they're considered an entrepreneur now. But the mentorship and the education and the cultivation and the grooming and the advisement, none of that stops. They actually continue with us after the graduation process.
That's awesome. Very cool. Now, what led you to this field, and how did you start this business?
I actually love this question. I actually joined the military at the age of 17. My parents, they were my heroes. Father was retired vet. And I always tell people, they gave me the gift of, when they put me on the plane that day to first Fort Jackson and then, of course, to Germany, They gave me a gift of being able to be surrounded by people that would shape who I became. I was a teenager surrounded by adults. Things that you think as a teenager that you can't do when your environment is adult, I mean, the sky's the limit. And oddly enough, one of my first jobs was working for a two-star general, General Kaye-Cee, and I'll never forget, as a private, he called me, he called me to his office, and the first thing he told me is, he asked me if I was scared of him. He's like, don't be scared. I put my pants on one leg at a time like you do. And from that point on, I always tell people there's nothing anybody could tell me. I always respected people. But if a two-star general could tell me, hey, it's okay, and give me that confidence, I always feel like I can help other people do the same thing. And so I'm so passionate about teens, especially our job to leave a legacy and to ensure that they do as well. Yeah.
I love that. I love that story. Along the way, were you inspired by a movie or a book or anything like that along the way?
Along the way, I would say I've read tons of books. And a lot of the books, of course, the Lean Startup, Hooked, a lot of those types of books, they motivated me and they opened up my mind to, oh, wow, this, especially the tech world, because I have to be honest, African-American ethnicity, and the tech world, you don't see a lot of us, tech world, So once I retired from the military and I started, reading these books, I said, oh, wow, it just opened up a world that I did not really know existed. Yeah, like I said, I read a lot of books, and one of the main things that they gave me, those books gave me, was hope for the future, hope for our world and our society.
Was there any one book that stood out?
I would say, to be honest, I mean, I know a lot of people have, these profound books. I would say Hooked stood out for me. I always talk about this one. I say Hooked stood out for me because I love knowing how the brain works and how people think. And just, reading each chapter, it literally was aha moments every time. So, and it made sense because I am a big consumer. I buy a lot of things. And when I would read things in the book, I'd be like, oh, that's exactly how they got me. So, yeah.
Excellent. And I know you've got deep passions and things for kids, but what else drives you to help people?
I just only recently been able to pinpoint it. And I say that because I decided to go for my second bachelor's degree. So I just took up, I'm starting my BA in entrepreneurship this time. And I'm taking a course called Servant Leadership. And I was able to finally pinpoint that I just have this need to continue to serve. I've always, I used to always tell people doing this was my way of giving back after serving. But I've discovered through this course that I just have this need for servant leadership, to just continue that servitude. And that's the only thing I can say. Nice. My passion is to continue to just serve in any way that I can, but as a leader and a follower, of course. But yeah, servant leadership that's my other passion.
You have to be a good follower before you can be a good leader. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, you're talking about 7-year-olds to 19-year-olds. What do you do? What's some of the common obstacles they face? I mean, I deal with grown adult entrepreneurs, and they're a challenge. But what is it like at that level? I mean, you've got mindset issues, or is it just because they're childlike that you don't have to deal with any of that? But
okay,
can you talk about that?
This is my favorite question. Okay, all right. So it's twofold. All right. The first part is I find, because I've worked with adults as you have, I find that it's easier to work with youth because of the fact that obviously, their mind is the easiest way is it's open. And adults, we can be set in our ways. You can say, hey, this is how you calculate this, and they can say, nah. But even if a child has learned it, say they learned it in 8th grade, but you come along and you say, well, this is how it can be done better. They're pliable is the way I see it. They're like, okay, and they can weigh the options, and then they're, if you're right, they're going to tell you you're right. And they're just so eager to learn. So that's a positive. I find it's easier to work with young adults, young innovators. But the opposite side of that is, and I find this is why a lot of people don't go into the teen sector in the tech world, because there are parents that come with this. It's like you hear in the entertainment industry where, of course, if you want to sign a kid, signing their parents, that can be a headache. And I'll just be honest, I don't think I've ever said that out loud. But that piece can be a major headache. If that parent, the way I see it is, if there are other things in that family's life that maybe they feel like they want that child to do, or things aren't moving fast enough, or it could be so many different things. I'll just give one example like that just happened. Let's see, my recent Teen Business Academy course, I had an amazing student. Her name is Lulu Reyes. She's she's the CEO of ToddlerTown.co. And it's funny because literally 2 days prior to graduation, her mother wanted to pull her out. And it's funny because Lulu is actually Hispanic, and her mother didn't speak any English. And she didn't come to class, and everybody was wondering where she was. And so I called, and she told me, she called me, and she told me the issue. She told me her mom wanted her to get out of the course because she just too much or whatever. She didn't understand it. I ended up having to speak to Lulu's mother while Lulu translated. And I told her, I just told her how amazing her daughter was, how everything that we do. And her mother said, okay, go. Lulu ended up being the salutatorian at the end of the course, so it felt like I was in a movie. Nice. But yeah, so, we deal with that as well, but other than that, I think that is the major obstacle, just having to just work with the parents. But for the most part, a lot of the parents, they, like I said in the beginning, they want the best for their children. And a lot of them, they actually come into the courses, they'll ask, hey, can we come in and can we learn some things, and we have parent courses as well. But yes, those are some of the obstacles.
There's such a need for that. I mean, the schools they're not meeting that need. What you're doing is exceptional, and I get it. And so these parents that are bringing these kids, they're not necessarily entrepreneurs, right? Either,
no,
obviously.
No, they're not. And so we're finding, yes.
And then you can transcend that and educate them as well.
Yes.
In the same process. And this is like an extracurricular type thing, right? I mean, it's not full-time program, or is it?
Oh, you mean the students?
Yes.
It ends up being an extracurricular unless they've already graduated, because like I said, we do 18 and 19-year-olds. So if they've already graduated high school, then it ends up being a full-time thing for them. And there's also some that are homeschooled, so it is a full-time thing for them as well.
And what would be some of the misconceptions when they come into your program, or that they're challenging, or might be challenging for them? Some misconceptions about being an entrepreneur.
One of the biggest ones that I'm finding is, let's see, on day one, actually on orientation day, we teach them about micro businesses. And we teach them, because we go all the way out to, our specialty is, of course, high-tech, fast-growing businesses, where we bring in investors and things like that. But one of the misconceptions is in micro, a lot of them don't realize that little things that they're doing, like making bracelets and selling it to their friends, doing film edits for, their friends and family members, those little things that they're doing are considered micro businesses. And so they're technically young entrepreneurs right now. Literally, we see on day one, or on orientation day, the light bulb comes on. They're like, oh, wow, I've been doing this all this time. I've been selling brownies, lemonade, all those things. And I'm technically an entrepreneur. Like, it happens every time, and we just have to laugh. Yes, you are. So that's one of the main things that we see straight out the gate.
I remember, and if this is not a fair comparison, just say, but I remember growing up, there was something called junior achievement.
Yes.
Is this something similar, or is this a step above that? And I remember volunteering when my daughter was in school. They basically learned how to run a city or things like that, but you probably go more in depth with entrepreneurship.
I actually love this question as well. Junior Achievement, DECA, and all of the Urban League, all of those different programs, they actually send students to us. We've built TeenTrep, the brand of TeenTrep, into a more elite program in that it's 2 weeks of immersion at an actual private business club. We immerse them around investors and people that can make a difference in their life. So they're not sitting, they're just not, sitting in a classroom somewhere and just learning about entrepreneurship. They're actually creating their company during this immersive time in their life. And they're walking around in their blazers, their sweaters, and their uniforms. They're walking around in a building where there's entrepreneurs, business people all around them. So like I said, it's immersion. So it's a step up. And everyone that talks about it, they say, they understand, oh, wow, TeenTrep is where we send all of these students from these other programs. And we actually, one of the things that we're finding is with programs like Junior Achievement and, they're amazing programs, but a lot of the students are still in school at that time, so there's no follow-up afterwards. We make sure that we follow up. Like, they are ours. They're part of the family, the TeenTrep family. And if you go on any, especially while the classes are happening, if you go on to any of the Instagrams and things, you'll see that's all they keep writing. Oh, my gosh, I found my new family, blah, 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 because we make it feel that way. They're helping one another. In fact, a lot of them, they become each other's CMOs, CFOs, and things like that. So this program, the way I see it is helping them just literally create their company in 2 weeks, but they will have those people that will be there to help them right there. So they're not having to go out and look unless they want to.
Do you encourage them to fail?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the only way you're going to know what success feels like. You're going to be able to appreciate it.
That's awesome, because that's, I do a lot of speaking myself, and it seems to be that the failure part is the connection point. It's like, people failed so many times. The difference is that they keep getting up and keep taking that step. And that's when they realize it. So that's good that they get that early on. And it's just, it amazes me at the grade or the age group that you're referring to. It's, I guess I'm just going to have to see it firsthand. But amazing. All these pitfalls, but so let's say a young person they're interested in starting their own business, and what are some of the additional things to avoid before they can achieve, being an entrepreneur? Do they go through the same things as an adult does? I'm pretty sure it's the same. But
all right, one of the biggest obstacles is, and we talk about this from day one, and we bring in instructors to talk about this as well, is handling stress. And as and we even have a little segment, and this seems to hit home when we start talking about this. It hits home with them. We have a segment where we talk about stress and how to deal with stress, especially because they're younger than the demographic that we're used to, the 30-year-old, the millennials. They're Generation X and Y. So we let them know, hey, there's a lot you hear in the news, a lot of millennials, suicides from stress, Silicon Valley, those types of things. And so we tackle that head on, and we bring in people to personal wellness coaches and things like that to help them deal with, okay, so hey, you're in this area, you're trying to figure this out, you're super stressed out. Okay, this is what you'll do. Or what would you do? They say, okay, well, I'll do this, or you could possibly do this. One of the things that we deal with, that we assist them in, is dealing with stress. And that's one of the first things. The second thing is, a lot of them, we find out they want to create companies in which venture capitalists will be interested in, investors, angels will be interested in. But we also let them know it's okay to start with a micro business and then crowdfund and things like that and then move up. But there's some that, like I said, they want to go into that area. That financial aspect, we find, can be a stumbling block. Just trying to figure out, we as adults trying to get funding, that's a crazy thing for us. So that's another thing. Those are the two biggest, for me, those are the two biggest hurdles that we see on a daily basis.
Can you describe how you've helped one student or one individual overcome those challenges?
So a lot of them, one student, one that's near and dear to my heart, a lot of them we find, not a lot, well, some of them, they can bring, just like with anybody else, you can bring your baggage or anything that's going on at home, you can bring that with you to the school. this young man actually, he lives in a home. The setup is, I believe that the setup for him is more like a foster home. That's the only way I can think of it, because he's actually the man of the house, and he has like quite a bit of young brothers and sisters that he takes care of. We would see that, he was actually chosen to be the captain, because he's a bright young man, but you could see that when he wasn't speaking or talking in class, he would go off on his own, and I could see the stress. Having to, then talking to him and finding out things about him, and then come to find out he actually had ADHD. And so just for me, hopefully this is what you're asking me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're good.
I was able to talk with him. I was able to see him beyond what I saw in the classroom, so I could figure out how to better approach him. And in doing that, I found out that he wasn't good at taking tests, but he was amazing at taking life tests. And I say that because he brought so many students, like he would be on Instagram all day, and he would bring students into TeenTrep. And he also would close deals when we would go to, because I'm a part of the Los Angeles venture community. So I would take them to meetings and things like that. And he would close deals there. So, yeah. So it was like helping him. I felt vindicated. I felt humbled, because I was able to just figuring out who he was allowed him to come out and shine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. If somebody was considering on entering your program from a parent's perspective, what would be the one thing they need to consider?
Time. Investment in time. Investment. Do you have the time to invest in this? Because this is like they say in the film world, when your child decides that they want to be, an actor, you're an actor. It's the same thing, the same concept. When your child, and I come from a film background as well, so that's why I can kind of relate, and they're kind of intertwined. But when your child says, "Hey, Mom," or you say, "Hey, I see the potential in my child," or "I see the potential in my grandchild," or my niece or nephew, and you want to be there in that journey, you have to say, "Hey, I want to invest this time in them," because it's a lifetime thing. Or if they decide, or it's at least a for now, let's see how it goes thing. If that makes sense.
Right. Their parents are actively there with them every step of the way?
Every step of the way, but not during the actual 9 to 5 time frame. Not while they're in class. Does that make sense? But they are always made aware of everything. They are always, if we have trips, they come to those trips. If we go to YouTube studios or something, they come to those things. That's
interesting, because I remember back, I knew at an early age that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I did my first business deal when I was 13. And yes. my parents were clueless on, they were focused on me playing sports and getting good grades in school. And so has there been a shift in the culture of parents being more attuned to, hey, there's more out there in the world than climbing the corporate ladder and getting a good job. But maybe my kid is thinking about being an entrepreneur, has that talent. When did they discover that?
I would honestly like to say, because we've just really, I've been so passionate with this TeenTrep, with branding it as what it is now. I would like to say that we have been an effective part of this shift, honestly. And a lot of people actually have come to us. We've had like Google, Facebook people, I feel like we've been an active part of this shift. We really believe in it. We really believe, like, if you see something in your child, if you see something in your grandchild, please contact us and we will help you get them where they need to be. And since then, like, if you go on Facebook, you're starting to see more parents say, hey, like you just said, there's more out there than just going to go work at Burger King. Create your own ecosystem that works like Burger King, or, your own company that does something like that, or whatever, whatever it is that you want to do, because more parents are starting to see that in their kids, or they saw it, but now they know that there's an outlet.
And these are generally college-educated parents, or no? Or a mix?
We're seeing a mixture. We're seeing a mixture. We actually have, I call it a batch of, and I have friends that like to call it like stage parents, where they're upper middle class and they want the best. I mean, everybody wants that next Zuckerberg, you know? Mm-hmm. We get students from that social economical area thrown at us as well. So yeah, everyone wants the best for their child or child around them.
Probably won't like me for saying this, but it looks like you've got the makings of a reality TV show there for sure.
I love you for saying that. That's our next step. And everybody, the thing is, I want to showcase the students, but everybody's like, definitely we'll get the students, but we want you as well. So.
Wow, that's cool. So if somebody's ready, or they say that, hey, my kid or my student is got the, he's showing signs that he wants to be an entrepreneur. I mean, when we started up, we did paper routes. That was our first venture. We cut grass. I mean, every entrepreneur that I've interviewed has gone back and said, well, I sold candles door to door. I sold greeting cards.
Avon,
Avon, whatever. Yeah. So are those the initial signs for somebody to say, hey, your young adult might have this shot at it? Is that how they determine that?
That is what I'm seeing, and that is what I know. Because just like you said, everyone that I've known, they were bitten by the entrepreneur bug at a very young age. Everyone that is one, they were bitten by it. I always say it's a seed that's planted somewhere, somehow. Someone in their life was one. If they weren't, but somehow they did something that, my attorney, she actually wrote, she was doing a publication as a kid. She wrote a little publication and then she would pass it out to her family members. So it starts, yes, you're right. It starts at a young age. So if they start to see those types of things, one of the things that we do is tell them, get on www.TeenTrep.co and fill out the application, and we'll do the rest. We'll go from there.
Great. It looks like it's shifted from banking on being an athlete and trying to get picked up for major league sports. And maybe there's a shift there, and I'm sure that market's just emerging, and you see that.
Yeah.
And you've positioned yourself right there to catch that. So that's bravo Zulu to you, as they say in the Navy.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So if somebody's ready to get started, what's the best way? You mentioned your website a few minutes ago, but what's the best way to reach out to you and find out more information?
Okay. They can find out more information on our website, TeenTrep.co, as well as teentrepreneur.biz on Facebook, TeenTrep_Academy on Instagram. But our website actually has all our little symbols and the links to all our social media, to everything TeenTrep related on the website. And the website, something that we just added to, just to give people, especially parents, an insight, we've actually added a little area that shows everything that our teens are doing. Like it has a little clip of their websites, of their companies and the commercials for their companies and things like that. So little showcases literally on the homepage, just to give them, they can say, oh, wow, my child can do the same thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. Thank you again for being on the show, and thank you for your service. And you're doing a very, very noble cause there. And I just want to thank you again for spending the time with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Tracy. It's been an honor.
All right, there you have it. This concludes this edition of the show, and we'll see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.